How do you control yourself when you are full of rage and want to keep calm? Clean the shit out of everything. If my house smells like strong bleach, you know I'm mad. I'll learn to do this one as well. My wife knows, if she comes in and the kitchen is spotless, that I've had a bad day. Few things better than taking all that energy and forcing it to do something legitimately functional. I'm too physically big to be that guy who hits the wall or yells at the kids. I don't want my family to fear me the way I feared my father. So, I clean. I don't particularly like cleaning, but I'd rather spend an hour scrubbing a bathroom floor than have my children scared when I enter the room. I think to myself, can I do the jail time? Usually the answer is no. Or do I have the money to replace what I break? I wait 5 years, and if I still remember what I was angry about, I murder them robbery gone wrong style. The trick is wear some funky sneakers and a nice scarf so the news will be looking for some fabulous looking stabber. If you get arrested you have no motive. Oh, that thing 5 years ago. Now we solved all nice and friendly like. We have the family temper. My grandpa used to lose his shit and go into fits of rage. Dad did the same thing. Throwing shit, cursing, breaking stuff. I ducking hated it. Everybody had to tiptoe around their tempers and it's ruined a few family events. When I catch myself starting to see red and go into one of those fits, I just concentrate on how bad my grandpa's and my dad's episodes made everyone feel, and that helps calm me down. Also, whatever it is that triggers it, walk away from it. You won't be able to properly address whatever it is if you try to do it while raging. I know the feeling. My grandma lived with us, and she was a very angry person. I was mostly angry throughout my young life until teenage years. It was pretty hard to control my temper. Then I dated a guy who goes into fits of rage. He would get into bad road rages, just like I did. But the main difference was, I finally saw how awful it was to look like a deranged rabid bear, bearing down with anger on some pitiful soul. What's worse are the times when said pitiful soul isn't pitiful, but is also a road rager who is ready to do some counterattacks. There's no actual fight that ensued, because we were medical students, and being jailed isn't something that would look good in the resume. We usually had way more to lose than the recipient of the anger. There's also the fear of everyone around him who cares for him. Doesn't really matter who started the entire thing. Everyone looks like a fool, and the bystanders suffer and get anxious. There really wasn't any space for two ragers in the relationship, so I mellowed down. I became very anxious and self-conscious, and I lost my self-confidence throughout his rages, whether directed at me or others. Ultimately broke up with him after 3 years, but learned about a valuable lesson on maturity and self-control. It's not just you in the situation, like it or not. Every action has a consequence, and it would affect the recipient of the rager and the loved ones who are with the rager. I became quite good at diffusing situations. Every time I find myself with an angry person, or if I'm angry myself, I never ask if the recipient of the rage deserves it. Instead I ask the following. What is causing the anger? What is the main problem, and can it be resolved? Usually the cause of anger is different from the actual problem. That is actual problem, inefficient service in an expensive restaurant. Cause of anger, feeling cheated and deceived. Ego feels like a fool. Is an ego hurt? What can I do to soothe the ego of this person? Can we find a common ground? Once calm, is the person listening to our side of the story? Can we find a solution together? If I'm the one angry, can I have a moment to take deep breaths and think logically to resolve the situation? Is the person in front of me really the one who can resolve the situation? Or was the situation brought in through no fault of his/her own? Can a compromise be achieved? What would ultimately settle the nerves of both parties? What do both parties actually need under the layer of anger? The most I have done for the past 10 years was write snarky messages, but never to the point of unprofessionalism. It's been a great eye-opener. I watched my dad get taken advantage of, ducked over, robbed, swindled, and used. Now, when someone tries to do the same to me, or my wife or daughter, in the course of about 5 seconds I go from I'm about to lose my shit, I just lost my shit, I don't take no shit, and then I explode. It rarely improves the situation. Most of my anger stems from watching people duck other people over, and it makes me see red. Watching other drivers be assholes. Watching someone put something back in the wrong spot at the grocery store. Hearing a manager say something that is an outright lie to get their way. Small things, big things, they're all the same. I worked with preschoolers, and I find zones of regulation super helpful, even as an adult. Basically, it's having an awareness of your emotional state. You have the green, blue, yellow, and red zones. If you can notice that you're entering the red zone, you can take steps to recenter yourself before you go into an all-out rage. You know that kid who's been raised around a lot of angry people and hence knows no other way to behave in life other than all the angry ways? Yeah, that's me. That said, once I moved away from home 10 years ago, I have mellowed out a lot. Some of these are overarching behavioral changes, while others are tricks I use to calm down in the moment. Here's a list of the tricks. Shut the hell up when you feel rage building inside you. Nothing you'll say in the moment will make it go away or resolve the situation. So relax and keep quiet. Deep breaths help a lot. It doesn't need to be overt and visible, but you can take some quiet deep breaths. This gives you something else to focus on, and deep breaths never hurt anyone. Try unplugging yourself and looking at the situation from a third-person perspective. Would you still feel the same way if you were a mere spectator instead of a participant in the situation? This perspective shift works like a charm. These are just a few things that help me. Hope they help you to op. I'm a very calm person, but teach calming techniques to emotionally disturbed kids. The biggest help I've found is finding a technique which grounds you and reminds you where you are in the present. I teach lots of different ones, including clench and unclench your toes. Focus on the feeling of your feet on the floor while you do it. Breath in and out so deeply you feel like your ribs are being pulled apart and knitted back together. Grab something near you, could be a pole, table, whatever, and clench and unclench around it. Walk while counting your steps. Do something rhythmic. I like bouncing a ball personally, but can be anything from using a stamp to skipping. All research shows when you reach red mist your rationality is gone and you just have to last it out. Your best bet is to recognize when you're losing control and utilize grounding techniques before you're past the point of no return. I'm usually a calm on the outside person, but when someone manages to enrage me, usually actually only my dad, I always have to break something. I've opted for ice cubes because it hurts nothing and nobody, and I can make as much as I want. The act of throwing it tires me out and physically calms me down. And honestly, it's kind of pretty watching the ice cube break into tiny little pieces, like fireworks, but ice. The sound of it breaking relaxes me too. Later on I head to bed because I get so mentally tired from the rage. I don't know if it's bad, but it's harmless and it works for me. The absolute angriest I have been in my life was when my wife chided me for weeks saying I never share feelings with her, then shut me down sharing trouble I had been having. Since a recent move with "you never share with me, I'm not going to start listening now." I let myself angrily scream, "Are you serious?" which was so loud and out of character, she jumped. I could see I scared her, and while I wanted to argue, I don't want my wife afraid of me, I very literally bit my lip, filled the largest cup in our cupboard with water, and made myself drink the whole thing before proceeding. Think of the consequences of your actions and mood. Buy yourself time to cool down. I have a punching bag at home named Kyle. Stay calm. Kyle's at home, and he deserves my juvenile temper tantrum, not other people. I have a brother named Kyle. Same principle. I completely shut off. As a kid I was pretty emotionally volatile, and somewhere along the way I subconsciously started muting my emotions. The result was that I was either apathetic or exploding with emotion. Mostly the latter former, especially as depression developed. Later on I started to have panic attacks and learned very quickly that I could just shut down completely instead. Over the years it has softened. I tend to take a deep breath and remind myself that I don't want to be that way. Sometimes I still just switch off. I found that violence, whether smashing things or punching a punch bag, made me angrier, even if it tired me out. I found that breathing techniques by and large made me feel anxious, and I found that, while walks were fabulous, they weren't always appropriate. Usually my frustration is because of something done by another. So I constantly work to remind myself that the other person is a human with challenges, difficulties, friends, faults, successes, failures, and that chances are they're not that evil. I want to bring more positivity into the world and maybe start helping others to feel more positive too. If it's at a person who is standing in front of me, I say / do absolutely nothing and just stare them dead in the eye until they look away. Feels like I'm hurting them with laser beams, and so far it's worked to either infuriate them or calm them down. I consider both wins in those situations. If I'm by myself I cry, and it doesn't work. Reflect on yourself and actions. I have found most of my anger comes from miscommunication with the other party. Really take a good look at the events leading up to your anger and what you could have changed about yourself. Don't worry about what the other person has done or is doing. You cannot and will never be able to control other people. Once you realize the only thing you can control is yourself and your emotions, letting go of things that make you angry is much easier. At least in my opinion. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please like and subscribe for more Reddit content. If you don't, you will get so angry that you will smash your PC.